This is CULTIC, an old-school horror first-person shooter created by Jason Smith and 3D Realms, who've managed to mix dark, visual storytelling, a touch of eldritch noir, and a unique retro aesthetic, offering a refreshing pace to the average throwback shooter. Today, I'm gonna look at CULTIC and give you a better idea of what to expect from the game, but more specifically, how it stands out on its own as a first-person shooter amongst a myriad of blood clones and blood references. CULTIC shouldn't really be considered a boomer shooter. It maintains a far slower pace, but the weapons and the guns feel powerful and loud. The enemies still feel like a threat, and the environment still feels engaging. Call it a boomer shooter if you like, but it is a lot slower and more distinct than other games you may be familiar with. Based in the 60s, we begin as a weary, unnamed detective investigating a series of weird disappearances and how they connect to what seems to be an evil, twisted cult. Making it to their compound, we're only killed, then to rise from a mound of corpses later. Left for rot, but more ready than ever to investigate these cultists with the edge of an axe and question them with the barrel of your gun. The CULTIC Demo has been around since 2021 and has changed a lot since its first outing. Jasozz Games have done a great job at slowly progressing the development of this FPS into something very polished and stable, only further nourished by a widely positive flow of community feedback and hype, and tempered by boomer shooter lessons of the past. Most are very quickly to draw parallels with CULTIC and other classic shooters like Blood or Shadow Warrior, and horror games like Outlast or Silent Hill. Though, I respectfully disagree with some of these conclusions. Not because I don't think CULTIC is inspired by games like Blood and aesthetic, but because making those kinds of absolute headlines give the wrong impression of what CULTIC actually is. And that's not your typical shooter. Rather, CULTIC is a more deliberate and considerably slower paced first-person shooter. More so than what fans of the genre may be used to, and it could take many by surprise. Simply calling CULTIC a blood clone or blood successor doesn't let CULTIC stand on its own virtues, and doesn't let its quirks shine as much as it should. To generalize, we can't consider every game that just happens to have dynamite or brown-hooded cultists a blood successor. Let's get into the details, and why I think CULTIC stands on its own, not only in this demo, but how it will at the full release. Just in case you were worried, let me be clear. There is lots of blood and gore. Barrels of the stuff. There's 40 bodies down and it'll never be enough. Oh, you shut up. I really ruined that song lyric. But anyway, let's move on. There's a lot of action in CULTIC, and it's very good. Enough blood to sate even the most die-hard blood fan, though the gameplay does dig a little deeper than just gallons of plasma. Playing through CULTIC's initial single stage in its current demo, you'd be forgiven for thinking that something felt a little off with your controls or movement. I certainly did, expecting a far more intentional movement scheme like classic Doom or Duke Nukem 3D. The campaign doesn't give you too many opportunities to test this initial movement, not until you get to the final segments of the level where you're running and jumping up and down ledges. At the outset, you could call the controls floaty, giving you a sense that you're moving forward even when you release a key. You're still moving an inch or two after you've let go of the button. You could think of this as being more realistic when it comes to movement, and I do now. However, at first, I thought there was something wrong with the game, rather than just a feature of the gameplay style. When you comprehend the basics, throw in a better understanding of the slide and jump mechanics, and you'll realize you're capable of engaging in some pretty awesome battles. Jumping through the air and reverting into a slide, and blasting those cultists into the next world. Rather excellent when you actually get the hang of it. So no, not precise movement that you may be familiar with in classic Doom. I say classic because the GZ Doom source port does the floaty thing too, but I don't think that was intentional. I do think this was though. I only did see the true capabilities of the movement technology in CULTIC when playing survival mode, and we'll get into that, but it's in there where CULTIC really shows what it's capable of. The guns though, play into your movement, but have their own thing going on. Inspired by mid-20th century guns like, think Mafia style and Al Capone guns, you get the Mauser pistol, the Thompson submachine gun, sawn-off shotgun, M79 grenade launcher, and the lever action rifle. As well as a trusty, rusty axe. Capable of decapitations to dramatic bloody effects, and I loved it. Once you've mastered the basics, again, you'll notice a few things off with the shooting at first, but I only noticed this because of my personal history of many hours in Classic Doom. I expected my shots to go where I point them, damn it! But taking a step back, I realized that this was a level of intimate realism and attention to detail per each weapon. Yes, your pistol is going to scatter a little per shot. It's a close quarters weapon, so at range it's not going to be as good. Where your rifle is going to put a little to the right every shot, but is better over long distances. Understanding the nuances of each weapon gives CULTIC another layer of tactical gameplay, not present in games like Doom or Duke, and that was pretty cool. Only experienced once in this demo though is the weapon upgrade system. Each gun, I hope, can be upgraded throughout the game using parts kits to increase accuracy, damage, magazine size, maybe a special upgrade. This demo only lets you upgrade the pistol for now, but I'm pretty sure every gun is going to have something special at the full release. Like I said before, playing survival mode, you really get a better sense of what CULTIC is going to be able to bring at full release. Survival mode offers you an option to upgrade your weapons, again, still under construction, so we can expect this to be somewhat of a key feature in the finished game, one that's going to add hours of customization and engaging gameplay throughout the entire series. Why wouldn't you want a sawed-off shotgun with a bigger punch, or a pistol that can be more accurate? And you know what? After playing through it a few times on various difficulties, you're going to need those upgrades to progress as you increase your difficulty throughout the game. I found standard difficulty setting good, but hard was also really good fun. Certain enemies start spawning earlier in the level, like the shotgun cultist, making an earlier surprising experience. Speaking of, you do get different kinds of cultists. You get your axe cultists, which are basically your run-of-the-mill fodder, your pistol cultists, which can be a little problem at range, which can snipe you with a 3-round burst from afar, or your shotgun cultists, which make any group encounter a little bit more intense, especially when you're low on ammo. I suppose that's where the Molotov cocktails come in. The campaign and the first level of CULTIC give you a glimpse of what's to come, but to get the full scope of the enemy roster, we look at the survival mode again, which, you know, is a competitive wave mode near a fallen church. I really like the map. Survival mode shows a far wider roster of baddies than I thought the game would have. Everything from machine gun cultists to skeletons and a reject from Texas Chainsaw Massacre all make an appearance, adding just a different level of tactical dynamic and keeping you on your toes throughout every run. Survival is a lot of fun. Sure, like any wave or horde mode, it's gonna be fun, but it also offers the player an opportunity to really stretch their muscles, perfecting your movement, your speed, your aiming, your tactics, all of that good stuff. Mode also gave me hints of the enemy roster we could expect in the final game, and it has me worried only because those submachine gun cultists pack a fucking punch. I don't think CULTIC is difficult though. I think it has difficulty settings, but it's quite balanced. Hard is your ultra violence like you're used to Doom. Standard is fun for the casual gamer, especially with the new June 2022 balanced patch update, which adds the lever rifle a little bit earlier, the Molotov cocktail and that kind of thing, balancing out some line of sight damage issues that apparently they were there. I did find the run a little bit more difficult prior to the update, to be fair, but I feel that the difficulty can be scaled fair enough, just, you know, increase it as you go. But if there's one thing you're going to notice when you boot up CULTIC for the very first time, is the visual aesthetic and atmosphere. CULTIC is set around the 50s and 60s, or mid-century, and it looks old and brown, sure, but it's not ugly. Far more elegant and intentional than that. The graphics combine normal 2D sprites for your guns and your enemies, but with 3D environmental elements. Call it a hybrid, but they come together to offer something very unique for the gameplay experience. The color scheme too is intentional and noir-like. I'll never say it right. Noir-like. Its limited palette offers a dark, brooding, tense tone in the environment. It makes you feel like some confused, hard-boiled, undead detective would, with only the impulse to cut the heads off cultists in front of you. Add to that experience a slow, solemn, piano-based soundtrack, and you get a sense that the universe is counting, a bell tolling in the back of your mind, that death was indeed only just the beginning. The environment adds to the tension of the gameplay. It doesn't let up. Even when you lead up to combating a group of enemies, you never feel like you're out of the woods yet. More like there's something darker in the corners of every log cabin. Something eldritch or unworldly waiting for you down in the dark of the deeper depths. I'm not sure if the Lovecraftian vibes that I was getting was intentional, really and truly, Jason, but I loved it. Though, in another way, the environment isn't just interesting to look at. You'll have an easier time through a harder playthrough by taking advantage of what the levels have to offer you. Using lamps throughout the game to set enemies on fire, or taking advantage of a well-placed exploding barrel, which is a personal favorite tactic, but it's just the beginning of the advantages you have in the world around you. You can pick things up and throw them around. There's a lot of things to be engaged with that explodes, but there is also a wide selection of secrets throughout every level. Well, every level. This level. I'm sure there will be more in every other level. I only managed to find 4 on my first run, 5 on the next, and I saw someone else's review and I found the 6th. But there are 11 secrets in the first level, and I really hunted for these. So I don't know where they are. Each of these secrets ebbs you to better ammo, a health position to take on the next group of cultists. While they're not essential at all, you're seriously going to appreciate that secret medikit later, trust me. I know I did. But that's the great thing about tactics in CULTIC. You get to choose your approach. You can run in guns blazing and get yourself shot in the ass, which is my technical default first choice. Or you could take a slower approach, set traps, sneak by, lay a few bundles of dynamite around a group of cultists, and ruin their day by a well-placed lamp throw and watch them burn into the good night. You have the freedom to approach combat the way you want, which I admit is less action-packed boomer shooter than I was initially expecting. But after a few playthroughs, I found that kind of nuance gives CULTIC a unique position among modern peers of the shooter genre in this more considered approach to combat. Other games do let you set traps and throw bundles of bang bang around corners, sure, yes, but unlike those games, there's a certain pace here, far more space between encounters, giving you time to consider and plan, and even take a different path if you choose. Choose your road, serve justice your way. It's slower, and that's a good thing. I think it makes you appreciate your gunplay, makes you appreciate your tactics more. Rather than just sprinting around through everything and getting through as fast as you can, you can actually take time to consider, think, and then blast your way through it. If you're going into CULTIC expecting to play the successor to Blood, or a Blood-like first-person shooter, the kind that 3D Realms is known for, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're looking for a retro-looking first-person shooter with a great mix of action, horror, and engaging environments and enemies, CULTIC offers you that in mountains. Mountains of corpses, if you will. I think that's what makes CULTIC special. Its ability to be nuanced. Its tactics, secrets, tone, pacing. It's far more deliberate, but it also knows when to explode. Though I admit, the biggest issue I have with CULTIC is that I need more CULTIC. That sounds a little lame, but it's true. In this demo review, I've spoken about its gameplay, its action, its pacing, its setting, and that's all great, but that's just the demo. What will make CULTIC a great game for me is more of it. I need to explore more of it. The current demo is polished as hell, but in short, it's very limited in its presentation of the core mechanics and offering in the first level. You only get a glimpse of the amalgamated awesomeness under the hood through its survival mode, and even then only a little bit. I'm hoping to get more from CULTIC on its full release. What I would like to see of in CULTIC is a touch more narrative. Yes, more enemies in the campaign. Yes, action, and more variety of maps, which I think, if we're sticking to the visual storytelling nature of the game, means will only be fulfilled, at least I'll only be satisfied, when it is fully released, I hope. CULTIC is a good game, and I recommend you grab the demo right now. Support the developer, but I highly recommend you grab CULTIC right now because it's going to be a great game when it fully releases. I didn't include CULTIC in my top 5 Steam Next FPS games of 2022, and I probably should have. In retrospect, I was wrong. But I think there was a lot to be learned from that video, and how not everyone's top 5 is going to be like everyone else's top 5. And for me, I think that top 5 lists in general are very rare for my channel, and I don't like how it reflects on the community, which is very community by its very nature, the indie space. Just showcasing how awesome games are is the best choice for me. So I do want to thank you, the viewer. Thank you for sending me feedback on YouTube and on Twitter. I really appreciate it. I've learned. I really like that. Thanks for watching, everyone. A quick shout out to Blogsy Malone, Ruby Ranger, and Melancholy Geek, my Hell Knight patrons. If you want to help me grow and get your name shouted out, please support me on Patreon. Or if you want to hang out sometime and lecture me how Cultic is totally the spiritual successor to Blood, man, there's a link to my Discord in the description too. Check out the secret link, and until next time, please take care, rip and tear. Cheers.